In the mists of time, before recorded history, humanity was at the mercy of the unseen. Sickness was a curse, an affliction sent by angry gods or malevolent spirits. In the flickering firelight of ancient caves and nascent villages, shamans and healers chanted incantations, performed rituals, and sought to appease the supernatural forces they believed controlled life and death. Their knowledge was a blend of superstition, folklore, and a desperate hope against the unknown. Pain was a puzzle, and death a final, inescapable mystery. But then, along the fertile banks of the Nile, a civilization was born from the rich black soil, a kingdom destined to touch the heavens. Egypt rose, a symphony of stone and ambition. Majestic pyramids pierced the sky, and sprawling temples stood as monuments to gods and kings. It was an age of monumental achievement, of art, engineering, and a new way of thinking. In this crucible of innovation, a light was about to dawn, not in the sky, but in the mind of one extraordinary man. His name was Imhotep. He was a vizier, a high priest, an architect of genius who designed the very first pyramid. But his greatest legacy was not etched in stone, but in the annals of healing. While others saw divine wrath in sickness, Imhotep saw a problem to be solved. He was the first to look at the human body not as a spiritual battleground, but as a biological system. He observed, he recorded, he questioned. He traded superstition for science, becoming the world's first true physician. This was a revolution. Imhotep would visit the sick, not with chance, but with keen eyes and gentle hands. He documented his findings on fragile papyrus scrolls, creating a library of medical knowledge. He noted symptoms, tracked the progression of illnesses, and theorized about their causes. For the first time, a healer was looking for patterns, for logical connections between cause and effect. He laid the foundation for clinical diagnosis, a practice that echoes in every doctor's office today. His work, and the work of those he inspired, was immortalized in texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus and the Evers Papyrus. These were not books of spells, they were practical medical guides. Animated hieroglyphs come to life, showing us their contents, detailed descriptions of ailments, diagnostic methods, and treatments for over 200 diseases. They documented everything from headaches and stomach complaints to tumors and heart conditions, revealing a surprisingly sophisticated understanding of human anatomy and pathology. From this explosion of knowledge came the Per-Ankh, or the House of Life. These were not just temples of learning, but the world's first hospitals. In torchlit halls, aspiring healers studied under masters, learning the art of medicine. Here, knowledge was passed down, refined, and expanded. The House of Life was a sanctuary where science was nurtured, where students learned to observe, diagnose, and care for the sick, establishing a formal system of medical education for the first time in history. The techniques developed were practical and surprisingly effective. We see healers skillfully stitching a gaping wound with a needle and thread, a practice that would save countless lives from infection. They set fractured bones with wooden splints, immobilizing the limb to allow it to heal correctly. They crafted remedies from a vast natural pharmacy, using plants like willow bark for pain relief and honey, a powerful natural antiseptic, to dress wounds and prevent infection. These methods were born from careful observation and a deep respect for both the body and the natural world. Life in the ancient world was fraught with danger. Unseen enemies lurked in the water and the air. Malaria, carried by mosquitoes from the Niles. Mushas caused devastating fevers. Infections could turn a minor cut into a fatal condition. Parasites were a constant threat. But with the new medical knowledge, the Egyptians were no longer helpless. They developed treatments and preventative measures, waging a systematic war against the diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. The ripple effects of this medical revolution spread far beyond the borders of Egypt. As trade routes and cultural exchanges expanded, these precious scrolls of knowledge traveled across the sea to the shores of Greece. There, in the shadow of the Parthenon, a new generation of thinkers, including the famed Hippocrates, would study the wisdom of the Egyptians. They absorbed Imhotep's principles of observation and rational diagnosis, building upon his foundation to create the bedrock of Western medicine. The Egyptians were not afraid to intervene directly. Though performed with great care and reverence, they pioneered surgical procedures, that were centuries ahead of their time. Ancient diagrams reveal their techniques. We see the delicate and dangerous procedure of trepanation, drilling a hole in the skull to relieve pressure on the brain. They crafted splints and prosthetics, and even performed early forms of eye surgery to treat cataracts. These were bold steps, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. The legacy of Imhotep is eternal. He was deified centuries after his death, worshipped as the god of medicine and healing. His name was carved into stone, his image enshrined in temples, a testament to the man who transformed human suffering into a field of scientific inquiry. He is the quiet giant of history, the architect of a medical revolution whose light shines down through the ages, a beacon of reason, compassion, and the relentless human quest for knowledge. From the fragile papyrus of Imhotep to the glowing screens of a modern hospital, the line is unbroken. The tools have changed. The knowledge has grown exponentially, but the core principle remains the same: to observe, to understand, and to heal. The spirit of that first doctor lives on in every physician, every nurse, every scientist who dedicates their life to fighting disease and easing pain. His journey began in the dust of ancient Egypt, but it has led us to the stars. He was the first doctor in history,